in the IDF, serial number 3821405. I'd like to share some lessons I learned during my Army service, but let me start with an introduction. When I was 10 years old, my parents took me with them to buy a piano. I was so excited, walking around the store full of pianos and people were playing. The assistant was describing different makes and what is unique about each piano. Now, both my parents actually enjoyed classical music, but they turned to this young man and said, "We're specifically looking for a piano that's 5 feet 2 inches. You see, although we lived in Connecticut, they'd already bought a house in Israel, and everything they did for the first years of their marriage was with a focus on moving to Israel. The piano had a planned spot in the family room there, and it had to be a specific size. So I was born in America, but with my heart in Israel. Being in Israel is a legal technicality, but for me it's also in my blood. I think it's like most spiritual, emotional experiences. You can't really explain it to someone who doesn't feel it, but those who do, you just know. So my bond, the bond of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, is intrinsic. Ancient Kabbalists discuss that the first words of God that we read in the Torah describing creation come to teach us that the purpose of it all, the ultimate connection of physical and spiritual absolute holiness, this would be achieved through the connection of the children of Israel with the land of Israel. The connection is part of the DNA of the world. So Israel is a part of me like any other limb. You can't live without it. There's a deep, deep connection, deep love for a country. As a young woman raised observant in Israel, I was exempt from military service. There are many nuances and reasons for that. But for me, not to give those late teen years serving my country was never an option. If I am totally honest, I think some of it was shallow. Soldiers in Israel are the elite. They are revered. And how cool. Uniforms, handsome soldiers, but it was more real than that. It was a duty, a responsibility that I had to serve because of this oneness that I felt, this love. And I don't think I even knew what it meant at first. Love, it's interesting how relationships develop. Often love starts with, what can he do for me? How does he make me feel? And perhaps that's not even love of the other person at all. But in any case, as the relationship develops, we start to think, what can I do for him? And the more we give, the more we love. It's somewhat counterintuitive, but we know it's true. What can I do for you is the mantra of true love. And as that works for people, so with objects. And when I enlisted, it was with a feeling of needing to do for my country. Growing up with a feeling of responsibility for the people and the land. One of the most famous expressions of love is love your friend as you love yourself. As you love yourself means we can't love others until we love ourselves. Love of self comes first. It's the prerequisite to building a relationship. Only where there's self-love can I give love forward. A Hasidic Rebbe in his very Yiddish way said, "Oi to a person who doesn't know their weak points because they don't know what to fix. But oi vavoy to a person who doesn't know their strengths because they don't know they're capable of fixing." We have to know and love ourselves in order to know what we have and how we can use it to love others. I really felt that my entire basic training was teaching me how to know myself and give it forward. For example, we spent a lot of time hiking. Take provisions on your back, add to that some random objects just to make it heavier, and walk. We were all tired and hungry, but anyone who lagged behind caused the entire platoon to be punished. You could see those that cared and those that cared less, those that shared their water with those in need. Did you complain, expressing the many reasons why this roundabout walk from pre-sunrise to dark was irrelevant and only designed to break us? Did you sing along to keep everyone's morale up? How far can I push myself physically and still answer a complicated question? We were given a lot of memory tasks. See a group of items spread out over the tent. When they're taken away, how many can you list, and can you then collect them all and set them up outside the tent in the same formation. How many commands in a row can you hear and remember to execute each one? Obviously, we learned a lot of technical know-how, but deeper than that, Im ein ani li, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? You need to invest in self, need to know who I really am. What do I need and what am I capable of? Recognize all the strengths that you have. Till my cup runneth over. It's an interesting expression. A person is filling up his own cup until it reaches the top. Lots of people, when their cup is full, they go for a bigger cup. Supersize me. And they stay focused, wanting more and more, bigger, faster. But that doesn't happen in your army service. You realize that your cup runneth over, that all yourself that you developed, what you filled up, it was all for this purpose, to give. Kshani la'atzmi ma'ani. If I'm only for myself, what am I? We learn as soldiers that we have an inner strength, deeper than we thought, that we're capable of sleeping less and functioning more, to have a heightened awareness of what's happening around us and what needs doing, and an intense excitement to get it done. One of the most incredible aspects of Army service is the diversity of the people that you meet. People you never would otherwise. Different socioeconomic levels, observant, non-observant. The Army is the true equalizer. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, if we look at that expression again, can you love others really as you love yourself? It's much easier to love those that are same as us because we see ourselves in them. Often opposites attract, but we see, for example, that there are couples that look so alike. We're attracted to that which we know and can relate to. You can't stay in that small, comfortable place, though, in the Army. Everyone's in it together. I want to share with you my personal encounter with this idea. When I was growing up, we lived in what would be called a religiously mixed area. Actually, it was mostly non-observant and some observant families that lived there. As kids and teenagers, we lived what I know now as a social utopia. We were all friends. Nothing could divide us. We went to different schools, but we studied for standardized tests together. Shabbat day, they would maybe go to the beach in the morning, but they would come over to play in the afternoon. I really grew up thinking that this wasn't even an issue. This was just normal. And I had a stark awakening in the Army. I don't think I'm the only one. I served most of my service in a large military intelligence base in central Israel. My unit was made up of educated, worldly soldiers. But for many, if not most of my unit, I was the first and only observant person that they had ever met. They knew about Shabbat as a concept, but they'd never encountered it. I don't know what they expected when they first met me. We became friends. Fast forward after my Army service, and I spent some time living in a very religious neighborhood in Jerusalem. There I met people, the most wonderful people, who were surprised by my Army service, and not for the reasons one would think. What did you do with those people? What did you say? They asked. They had never spoken to an observant person before. In both communities, there was confusion and some suspicion. So I've made it one of my personal goals, and I hope you will all join me to break down these barriers. We don't actually need to be in an Army service to do this. We love others when we can see the good in them. The more goodness we see, the stronger the love is. It's sometimes too easy to see the differences, the negative. We often judge. But there's more than connects us all than divides us. It's complicated, this loving people as you love yourself, because you can't really give everyone what they need and what we need. So we live in Manhattan and I use public transportation. I'm often sitting on a bus or a train, could see someone running from afar trying to stop the driver to get his attention. And all of us sitting there debate in our minds. If we delay for them, we'll be late. But is that wrong? Every situation is different, and the concept, though, what the Torah requires us to do for them is not what we do for ourselves. Certainly in this situation, that would be impossible. If we wait and they're on time, then I'll be late. And if we leave and I'm on time, then they'll be late. So we can't be required to do this. Rather, we have to want for them to get what they need, want for them to get there on time. Want the best for them, same as you want for yourself. So let's learn to see the good and wish everyone, wherever they are, the very best. I was assigned to military intelligence, and the first thing you're required to do is sign a contract, not to discuss details of what you will have done, any knowledge gained, can't share it for 50 years. So of course I did this, and it was impressed upon me how serious it was. I would learn over and over again that people's lives were in my hands, that information could be the difference between life and death, between war and peace. I can't remember 50 years back, but I do know that in the few years since my army service, the world has completely changed. It's so irrelevant. The pinnacles of power have been brought down. Saddam Hussein in Iraq, the Egyptian government overturned, civil war in Syria. It doesn't really matter what weapons they had then when everything is so advanced now. Communication and surveillance, technology has developed beyond. But as my family and friends will tell you, I hold on to that promise that I signed. No secrets have been shared. There's a power to secrets. They can build a person. For me, those army secrets are my mystique. It's my USP, if you will. When two people share a secret, it cements their relationship. No one knows this except us. Like when a couple get engaged, before the craziness and the phone calls and parties, when no one knows except them. That privacy is so special, that amazing feeling. But wrong secrets kept can also destroy a relationship and debilitate an individual. People used to share a lot less. Then you were considered old-fashioned if you didn't share. And now we realize that there's such a thing as too much information. Friends share things that I really didn't need to know. So on the one hand, we have too much information. Really, we're looking for privacy. I have my privacy, you have yours. Some things we share, and what's private we don't. But the further extreme of that is secrecy, the things we don't talk about at all. There's an uncomfortableness when people don't know the difference between sharing and privacy, but there's a danger when people don't know the difference between sharing and secrets, when we don't know what secrets to keep and which to tell. This is something we really need to learn, what we need to talk about to get help, to not be afraid. Sharing, privacy, secrecy, it's a sign of maturity and wisdom to know the difference. I'll never forget my first day as a cadet and my first day as a commanding officer. It's all about the sunglasses. At the start of basic training, everyone's trying to figure out what to say, how to address the officers, what to do or not, where to stand, how to stand. Usually we gauge our behavior, how it measures up to people's reactions. In basic training, all officers wear sunglasses, and they're very strict. They demand respect in this most serious of ways. We crawled and jumped and ran and ran and ran and ran. We kept wondering, who do they think they are? I'll never forgive them for this. I wonder if there's a way to demand real respect, or does it have to be earned? There's a basic respect definitely for all people by virtue of them being a soul. They deserve respect. Havei mechabed et kol ha'adam, to respect the entire person, not just the person, the entire person. You can't really respect them if you don't know who they really are. It may be cliche, but it's true. When we look at a person, we only see part of them, the part that they chose to show us. True respect is when even they don't tell me, I can acknowledge there's a complete person and respect him for where he's come from and where he is today. Respect for the stumbling blocks that they climbed over, situations they had to overcome. And maybe times they stumbled, and we can respect them for that too, because they got up and kept going. King Solomon said, a righteous person falls 7 times and get up. We usually understand that to mean that because he is a righteous person, he was able to get up each time. But I think the real understanding is much more perceptive than that. A righteous person falls and gets up 7 times means that he's a righteous person because he got up each time. It's the struggles that build us. So when we see a person for everything that they've experienced him with all his flaws, then we respect the entire person. V'hadarta pnei zaken means to show respect to an old person. Stand up on the bus, give them your seat. You don't need Jewish wisdom to teach you basic manners. But what we are trying to learn is not just to be good, it's to be great. So zaken means not just someone who's old in years, not just the elderly, but someone who has more experience than me in any field. Today we Google and we think we know as much as anybody. I was recently in a class and the teacher was speaking and there was a student that kept raising their hand and asking questions that undermined everything the professor said. The student always seemed to be one step ahead. Turns out that they were Googling the lecture as it went along and getting critical questions based on opposing articles that were from what the professor was giving over. You know, Google's amazing, and we can use it to build ourselves and learn things. But if we don't really know the issues, there's no substance there. There's nothing really to respect except maybe the people who put the information into Google in the first place. As a commanding officer, I learned that you can learn and gain from every person that you meet, and from my students most of all. That continues to be the case as I teach and share. Every person that I meet and talk with has what I have what to gain from. And I think that the soldiers and people who are strong enough to realize that they learn from everybody are the ones who become great. So what have I learned? I've learned and gained a profound perspective of the Jewish people, of all people who are constantly learning, not afraid to fall and learn from those failures as they get up. People who look around and see each person for the soul that they are and the infinite worth that they have, regardless of background. We make up an incredible fabric of society. Those that share knowledge and help and confide in each other, who treat people with dignity and love, those are the soldiers that I learned from, and the people, incredible people, that they grew up to be. There's incredible learning and joy everywhere in Israel, and I hope that everybody has a chance to learn, gain, appreciate everything that this incredible land, country has to offer every single one of us.